When every ally abandoned them, hope seemed lost. But in the darkest hour, a terrifying force no one dared to call on arrived. The galaxy's most feared and unstoppable species. What happens when survival means trusting the predators no one else would? When every ally abandoned them, hope seemed lost. But in the darkest hour, a terrifying force no one dared to call on arrived. The galaxy's most feared and unstoppable species. What happens when survival means trusting the predators no one else would? The war had ravaged the outer colonies for years, but nothing prepared Commander Kael for this betrayal. His fleet was battered, crippled, and surrounded by the relentless swarm of the Rinther, a merciless alien horde whose name alone was whispered in terror across star systems. The Rinther showed no mercy. They consumed worlds, dismantled defenses, and crushed every resistance with brutal efficiency. Kael's coalition had once been vast. Dozens of allied species united to stop the Rinther's advance. But one by one, his supposed allies abandoned the fight. Fear spread faster than the enemy. And when the Rinther pushed into the heart of the coalition's last stronghold, the abandoned fleet was left to hold the line alone. Kael stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vanguard, eyes scanning the view screen as the enemy armada filled the void outside. His heart pounded with a mixture of rage and despair. "Status report," he barked. "Shields at 20%, Commander," his tactical officer replied. "Weapon systems are overloaded. We won't last much longer if the Rinther breach our defenses." Kael clenched his fists. He had sent countless distress calls, begged for reinforcements, pleaded for allies to honor their oaths. The silence that answered was deafening. "Any sign of help?" Kael demanded, voice low but fierce. "None, sir." All channels remained dead. The realization hit him like a starship crash. No one was coming. A sudden alert flashed on the console, drawing all eyes. "Commander, an unidentified fleet is emerging from the nebula cluster," the communications officer said, voice trembling. Kael leaned forward, heart skipping. The sensor readings were unlike anything in their database. Massive ships with twisted, jagged hulls, marked by scars of battle and sheer menace. The legend was true. The Khar'Zul, the galaxy's most dangerous species, feared not just for their power, but for their unpredictable savagery, had answered the call. The Khar'Zul had a reputation that spread like wildfire through every corner of space. Known as the Void Reapers, their arrival was both a blessing and a curse. Their warriors were brutal, unyielding, and utterly merciless, but their wrath was unmatched when they chose to fight alongside another race. The Coalition Command had warned Kael never to seek their help. The price was too high, the risk of losing control even greater. But now, with the Rinther closing in and allies gone, Kael had no choice. He stepped up to the communication panel, sending a single message, a desperate plea. "Khar'Zul Fleet, this is Commander Kael of the Vanguard. We face annihilation. Your aid is requested. The Coalition stands ready to pay the price." Minutes dragged like hours. The crew watched in tense silence as the Khar'Zul ships approached, their silhouettes casting eerie shadows across the stars. Suddenly, the Khar'Zul flagship loomed into view, a massive warship adorned with jagged spires and glowing crimson runes that pulsed with ancient energy. A booming voice echoed through the comms. "Commander Kael, your plea has been heard. We shall intervene, but know this. Once our claws sink into this battle, the galaxy will remember the fury of the Khar'Zul." Kael nodded grimly. The gamble was taken. The fight was about to change, but at what cost? Inside the Khar'Zul flagship, the warlord Tsar stood tall, muscles rippling beneath his armored carapace. His many eyes gleamed with a savage intelligence as he prepared his forces for the coming battle. "The humans and their allies are weak, but their desperation is the scent of blood we crave," he growled. "We will rip the Rinther apart and claim the spoils. Yet remember, once this war ends, the debt they owe us will demand payment, and it will be brutal." His elite warriors snarled in agreement, eager to spill the enemy's blood. Back on the Vanguard, Kael prepared his crew for the fight of their lives. "This is not just a battle for survival," he told them. "It's a battle for the future of the galaxy. The Khar'Zul may be savage, but their strength is the edge we need." As the enemy fleet surged forward, the void exploded into a symphony of lasers, plasma, and explosions. The Rinther launched wave after wave of biomechanical dreadnoughts, but the Khar'Zul tore through them with terrifying precision. Kael watched as the battlefield became a chaotic storm of fire and destruction, the Rinther's cruel engines falling silent under the Khar'Zul's relentless assault. But even as the tide turned, Kael felt the weight of what was to come. The Khar'Zul were not saviors, they were predators. Once the Rinther were defeated, the galaxy would tremble before a new force. The final moments of the battle came fast and brutal. The Rinther flagship exploded in a maelstrom of energy, and their fleet scattered into retreat. Cheers erupted on the vanguard, but Kael knew the war was far from over. The Khar'Zul had won this fight, but what price would they demand? As the Khar'Zul ships gathered near, their warlord broadcast a chilling message across all frequencies. This war is ours now. We will not leave empty-handed. The galaxy will bow before the Khar'Zul. Kael's hands tightened around the command console. Allies had abandoned them. The deadliest species in the galaxy had answered the call. And now, the fight for survival was just beginning. They said no one would come to their aid. They were wrong. The deadliest species in the galaxy answered the call, but their help came with a price. As the war explodes into chaos, who will survive and who will be consumed? The destruction of the Rinther flagship was only the beginning of the new nightmare. As the battered coalition fleet regrouped, the Khar'Zul warlord Zar convened a brutal council aboard his flagship, the Doomclaw. His many eyes flickered with dark anticipation. The Rinther threat is gone, he growled to his lieutenants. But the galaxy is ripe for conquest. The weak have shown their true nature, abandoned their allies in fear. Now, it is time the strong take what they deserve. Back on the vanguard, Commander Kael listened to the ominous transmission. His jaw tightened. The Khar'Zul had saved his fleet, but they were no saviors. Kael's communications officer, Lyra, approached hesitantly. Commander, we've intercepted messages. The Khar'Zul are demanding territories, resources, and our allegiance. Kael's eyes darkened. They're not just here to help. They want control. That night, Kael stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars now stained with war and uncertainty. What have we done? He whispered. Meanwhile, across the coalition's fractured homeworlds, panic spread like wildfire. Many leaders had already fled or surrendered, unwilling to face the wrath of the Khar'Zul. But others saw the brutal reality. The Khar'Zul's arrival was a game-changer. To fight the Rinther alone was suicide. To fight the Khar'Zul might be worse. In the shadow of the Doomclaw's fleet, uneasy negotiations began. Kael met with Zar face-to-face in the warlord's chamber, a dark cavernous hall lit by flickering red biolights. You have our thanks for saving us, Kael said cautiously. But what do you want in return? Zar smiled, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Your worlds, your fleets, your resources, your loyalty. The Khar'Zul do not bargain. We claim what is ours by right of strength. Kael's fists clenched. And if we refuse? The warlord's grin widened. Then you become the enemy. Kael left the chamber with a heavy heart. He knew the choice, submit and lose freedom, or resist and face annihilation. Back on the vanguard, he called his remaining officers. We survived the Rinther only to invite a new terror, he said grimly. The Khar'Zul saved us, but now they want to rule us. We must prepare for war, not just with the Rinther, but with our so-called saviors. Lyra nodded. Our people will never accept Khar'Zul rule. Kael sighed. Then we have no allies left, only enemies. Across the war-torn systems, small pockets of resistance formed. Coalition soldiers and civilians alike began to sabotage Khar'Zul operations. Kael led daring raids to weaken their grip, but the Khar'Zul's ferocity and technology made every victory costly. During one brutal skirmish, Kael faced a Khar'Zul warlord in single combat, a fierce battle that left both warriors scarred but alive. Their fight became a symbol of the coalition's stubborn defiance. But the cost was high. Every rebellion sparked brutal reprisals. Planets were razed, populations enslaved, and entire fleets destroyed. Kael's forces dwindled as the Khar'Zul tightened their chokehold. Desperation grew, but Kael refused to surrender. He sent out a final call to any survivors across the galaxy. Join us or stand aside. The Khar'Zul will not stop until every star burns under their rule. As the conflict escalated, whispers spread of a secret weapon, an ancient technology hidden deep within the coalition's last bastion. Kael and his closest allies raced to uncover it, hoping it could turn the tide. But the Khar'Zul were relentless, hunting them down with ruthless precision. In the final battle for freedom, Kael faced impossible odds. The skies above the coalition's capital blazed with fire as the Khar'Zul fleet launched their full assault. With the ancient weapon activated, Kael's forces fought with renewed strength. The warlord Tsar led the charge, their clash shaking the very fabric of space. The battle was fierce and desperate. Kael managed to wound Tsar, forcing the Khar'Zul to retreat. The galaxy breathed a fragile sigh of relief. But Kael knew this was only the beginning. The Khar'Zul had been unleashed, and the scars they left would change the galaxy forever. As he looked toward the horizon, Kael vowed to rebuild and to prepare for the next war. Because no allies had come. Only the most dangerous species in the galaxy had responded.